Hey guys, it's Miss Stalker. We're going to be talking about adding integers today. And first we're going to do some guided notes. And then after we do our guided notes, we are going to do a couple examples for y'all to have. So the first thing is when you add integers, if they have the same sign. Now what it means by the same sign is if both add-ins are positive or if both add-ins are negative, you add like you normally would and you keep the sign. So here, this just goes into a little bit more of a mathematical definition of it. It just says add the absolute value of the numbers and keep the sign they share. But to put it in more simple terms, if you have a positive number plus a positive number, your answer is going to be a positive. So a positive plus a positive is a positive. Now this is like the simple math that you've always known, you've always learned. A positive plus a positive equals a positive. Now what we're learning that's a little bit different in 7th grade is we're learning how to add those integers and those numbers with different signs. So next we're going to look at a negative plus a negative. If a negative number and a negative number are added together, the answer is also going to be a negative. So what it means by same sign is both of these numbers share either a positive sign or a negative sign, and their answer is going to also reflect that. What I really like about these notes is it even has examples for you. So for a positive plus a positive, we have positive 4 plus positive 5 equals positive 9. Now, one thing I want to point out about these notes that you wouldn't normally do, if a number is positive, you do not have to put the positive sign. They just have them in this scenario to show you that those numbers are in fact positive. In the second example, we have the negative plus the negative. Now, what I love that they did here is I just told you that you didn't have to put the positive sign with a positive number. But when a number is negative, you do have to put that negative sign. And what I love that they took it a step further and they put those parentheses around those negative numbers. That's a good way to organize your work and to keep that sign with the right integer. So we have a negative 4 plus a negative 5 equals a negative 9. All they did here was they said, well, this is a negative 4 and this is a negative 5. They're both negative add-ins. They both have a negative sign. I'm going to add 4 plus 5 like I normally would, and it's 9. But since I have a negative plus a negative, it's a negative 9. Now, these scenarios that we have up here, they are add-ins with the same sign. But what happens when I add a positive and a negative, or a negative and a positive? So let's look at these sets of notes. If you have a problem that has different signs, like we just talked about, you are going to subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. So, simple terms, subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. Now, to put it in a more mathematical definition, you're going to say subtract the absolute value of the numbers. So just like you've always learned to subtract, you put that bigger number subtracted by the smaller number, and you keep the sign of the larger number. So subtract the absolute value of the numbers, bigger subtracted by smaller, and keep the sign of the larger number. They've given us 2 examples here. Example 1. We have negative 4 plus positive 5 equals positive 1. Now, before we even really look at these answers, I want to focus on these add-ins. So, a negative 4 plus a positive 5. In our notes, it says subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. But before we even subtract, what I want to point out to you is let's focus on which number is the larger number. Is a 4, and it talks about absolute value up here, so what number has the greatest absolute value? Which number is further away from 0? The greater absolute value between negative 4 and positive 5 is 5. 5 is the larger number. Now what that means is we have 5 is a positive number. Since 5 is the bigger number, our answer is also going to be a positive. And it says, well, once you've done that, now you just subtract like you normally would. 5 minus 4 is 1. And we know 5's bigger and it's a positive, so it's going to be a positive 1. In our second example, it's kind of the opposite. We have positive 4 plus negative 5. Again, what we're going to do, which number has the greatest absolute value, which number is further away from 0, which is the larger number. And in this case, again, 5 is the larger number. But what's different about this 5? This 5 is a negative. And since it's the larger number, we know that our answer is also going to have to be a negative. We've identified our larger number. We know what our answer, what our sum should have a sign of. So we subtract. 5 minus 4 again is 1. But in this case, it's a negative 1 because the 5 was a negative and it was the larger number. Okay, so we've done these notes. I'm going to do a couple of examples with you that reflect these notes. Our first examples, we have those numbers that we just talked about. Now, in my personal opinion, these are the easier ones because they have the same signs. So right away in this first one, we notice 8 plus 6. 8 does not have a negative sign in front of it. 6 does not have a negative sign in front of it. So we have a positive plus a positive. And a positive plus a positive is supposed to equal a positive. So we know our answer should be a positive number. 8 plus 6 is 14. Now, we talked about earlier, just because it's a positive number, you do not have to put a positive sign in front of it. Positive plus a positive equals a positive. 8 plus 6 is 14. Positive 14. But in our second example, we have negative 8 plus negative 6. I love the use of parentheses when having a negative number in a problem. It helps organize and keep together those signs. So we have negative 8, negative number, plus a negative number. When we add a negative plus a negative, we get a negative. And we said earlier, when numbers have the same signs, you add like you normally would. So 8 plus 6 is 14. But since both of our add-ins are negative, our answer is negative 14. Now let's switch over to 2 other examples. And these examples include numbers with different signs. So in our first example, we have negative 8 plus 6. Remember, the first rule, identify what number has the greatest absolute value. And basically what that means is just choosing the larger number. So when I look at this problem, does negative 8 have the greater absolute value, or does 6? The correct answer would be 8. 8 is further away from 0. So what I'm going to do, and you can always do this as well, I'm going to circle this 8. Since 8 is the larger number and 8 is a negative, I know that my answer is going to be a negative. Doesn't matter. Whatever the answer is, it's going to have a negative sign in front of it. Now, when we have different signs, we found the number that's larger, but now we just subtract like we normally would. 8 minus 6. Remember, when we subtract like we normally would, bigger number first, smaller number second. 8 minus 6 is 2. I put a 2 up here. Negative 2 is my answer. In our second example down here, we have the same numbers, but what you're going to notice, instead of the 8 being positive or being negative, our 6 is negative. We've used those parentheses once again to kind of keep all of those numbers organized. Now, first thing, we notice that these have different signs, so we have to decide which number has the greatest absolute value. Positive 8 or negative 6. An absolute value just means how far away that number is from 0. And we know that 8 has the greater absolute value. I'm circling 8 because 8 is the larger number, and my answer is going to have whatever sign 8 is. 8 is a positive number, so I know that my answer is going to be positive. Now, if you want to put a little positive sign here to help you remember that your answer is going to be positive, you can do that. But you are not required to put a positive sign there. A positive number does not have to have a positive sign in front of it. It can stand alone. So again, we do what we normally would. We've already found our larger number. We subtract our larger number minus our smaller number. 8 minus 6 is 2. The sign of our larger number is a positive, so our answer is a positive 2. So if you have any questions about this video, please email me or ask me on Zoom. This video will stay on our Google Slides, so you can always refer back to it.